Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 26th of November. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, Euronews' daily live fix of European news and analysis. Coming up today, despite a three-day strike here in Belgium, European lawmakers made it to Strasbourg for their November plenary session. On their agenda this morning, a debate on a European solution to lasting peace in Ukraine, making sure the European voice is heard amidst the flurry of diplomacy. MEPs also voted on integrating the EU's defence industry with that of Ukraine's. For insights on what exactly is being said behind closed doors, we'll be hearing exclusively from the European Commissioner for the Economy, that's Valdis Dombrovskis. Originally from Latvia, Valdis Dombrovskis is a former Prime Minister, MEP, and he's now serving his third stint as Commissioner. Although his main task is to drive growth in the EU and cut red tape, being from a Baltic state means he's closely following the situation in Ukraine. We can cross now live over to the European Parliament in Strasbourg, where Euronews' EU editor Maria Tadeo is standing by for us. A busy week for you, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Look, let's talk about Ukraine. The talks are moving fast. We've heard President Zelensky may visit President Trump as soon as substantial progress is made. What are you hearing in Strasbourg, Maria?
Yes, Maeve, good morning. And as you say, this is a plenary session that was on the agenda, that was scheduled. But of course, a lot of this is now conditioned by those talks between the Ukrainians, the United States, but also the Europeans. And that is really the zeitgeist here in the European Parliament in Strasbourg, how to muscle the Europeans back into these talks. Of course, this has been a very delicate week for Ukraine. It has been a delicate week, too, for the Europeans who want to get a seat at the table, because a lot of the points that will be debated and potentially a peace settlement will have to involve the Europeans when it comes to territory, when it comes to NATO, when it comes, of course, to the reconstruction of Ukraine and also the frozen assets. So on that note, I am very pleased to say, Maeve, this morning we are joined by Valdis Dombrovskis. Of course, he comes from Latvia, but this is a man who knows the machine very well, 3 times commissioning. He is joining us live. Commissioner, thank you very much for being with us exclusively on Euronews. You have said from day one, Ukraine needs to win for Ukraine, but also for Europe. It seems to me, however, Russia has the upper hand. Is this it? Vladimir Putin, he won.
Good morning. Well, first of all, it's very clear that we need to continue to provide all necessary support to Ukraine, which includes military support, which includes financial support. And currently, we are engaged in intensive peace negotiations. And we have set important parameters from the European Union side, respect of territorial integrity, questions also about Ukraine's military capacity, that they are not restrained, making Ukraine vulnerable to further attacks, and also that the European Union and Ukraine's EU integration is at the center of the post-war settlement.
And I've got to ask you, however, do you think President Trump cares? Because it seems from the outside that President Trump does what President Trump wants.
Well, that's why we had been very intensively engaged throughout the week in negotiations in different formats, working to, if we talk about peace plan, to improve the conditions to make a peace which at the end of the day is just and lasting.
And can I ask you, however, do you worry about the close contacts that it seems a part of the U.S. administration has with Russia? Again, from the outside, it seems they have the ear of a significant part of this administration, Negotiator Witkoff. Do you worry that the Russians now have the upper hand?
Well, it's clear that Russia cannot be rewarded for its aggression, and this is also an important principle which must adhere, that Russia is also held responsible for the damage and for the crimes it has committed in Ukraine.
And is that going to happen, however, because many documents have now done the rounds, but one of them basically said the frozen assets would be unblocked, there would be an investment fund for Russia, and they could make money out of this. How is that acceptable to the European taxpayer?
Well, I was mentioning the issue and importance of providing further financial support to Ukraine, and this is indeed urgent issue, and as you know, one of the options we have put forward as European Commission is so-called reparation loan, which foresees use of cash balances associated with immobilized Russian assets. And there are European Council decisions, there are also G7 decisions foreseeing that Russian assets should stay immobilized for as long as Russia has not paid reparations.
So you think in no way Russia and those frozen assets could be unblocked and money given to Moscow?
This is a proposal and a concept we have put forward as a European Commission. We do not see a basis for rewarding Russia for its aggression.
And of course, when it comes to the Europeans, the 140 billion euros, the frozen assets, you have been debating this now for weeks and months. And I have to be honest, you have said from day one that the money had to be used for Ukraine. Why is this still not moving? It seems it's a critical stage. Europeans are just talking, not taking action.
Indeed, it's urgent to take action. So, following the request of EU member states, the Commission has prepared options paper outlining different options for funding. But now, indeed, it's time that we stop discussing different options, but agree what we do and move forward. And of all options, reparation loan is which can provide sizable support for Ukraine without putting additional substantial fiscal burden or on EU or its member states.
So for you, the reparations loan, which has never been done in modern history, not even Second World War had this kind of reparations, that is the way to go. That is your preferred option. As Commissioner, you say we need to use the money and give it to Ukraine.
Because other options are more costly for EU and member states. I wouldn't say worse, but they are more costly because it's clear that Ukraine is facing debt sustainability issues, so we cannot just go on providing another loan to Ukraine. So support we provide has to have strong grant or grant-like features, and for this to be the case, we can use these cash balances associated with Russian assets, or then member states or EU budget has to pay itself.
So then let's get to the action. When it comes to December, and by the end of December, there could be a peace deal already more or less agreed between the Russians and the Ukrainians. Do you think when we get to the European Council at the end of the month, the Belgians will come around? Because so far they have played this very tough, and they say they do not think this is a good idea, and the retaliation could be severe from Russia.
We are in intensive engagement with Belgian authorities because we understand their concerns, and it's clear that other EU member states need to provide a guarantee that this risk needs to be shared. Belgium cannot take that risk alone. Well, as regards Russian retaliation, Russia has all the possible reasons to retaliate against the EU. We have immobilized its assets, we have seized and frozen Russian oligarchs' assets. We have put 19 sanctions packages against Russia. We have provided very sizable support to Ukraine. I think it's very clear where European Union and its member states stay in this Russia's war against Ukraine.
So your message to the Belgian Prime Minister is don't fear Vladimir Putin. Let's work on this together. Let's get the frozen assets done and in a reparation loan immediately.
If you give in to bullying, you only face more bullying. So we need to stand up against the aggressor.
And on that note, the Russians don't seem to fear Europe, and they also seem to believe there is an understanding with member states like countries like Hungary, who continues to say Russia cannot be defeated on the battlefield and the Europeans won war. What do you do when it comes to Viktor Orban?
What we need to do is to provide decisive support to Ukraine, and that's what we need to focus. Obviously, those discussions have been difficult throughout, including with Hungary, but at the end of the day, one way or another, we were able to agree on 19 sanctions packages. We were able to provide very sizable financial support to Ukraine, and it's important, obviously, that we are able to act now when probably we are facing a critical moment as regards this peace process.
But when Viktor Orban says the problem is the Europeans, they won war, what's your response?
I cannot agree less to statements like this. Problem is Russia. It is Russia which is aggressor, and it is Russia which has to be countered.
And just a final question. If Ukraine is thrown under the bus, a bad deal, what does that mean for Europe? What's the risk for us? Do you feel your country, the Baltics, Poland, could be attacked next?
Well, we know also from history that appeasement of aggressor only creates more aggression, and Russia is openly talking about invading other countries, including EU and NATO countries. So it means if Russia would feel vindicated by this war and the results of this war, it will only create more aggression, and this war will spread.
Well, Commissioner, thank you very much for joining us on Euronews. And of course, Maeve, that was Valdis Dombrovskis, Commissioner for the Economy and Simplification. Today, however, the focus is very much on Ukraine and those ongoing talks among the Europeans and the frozen assets. That is a big card the Europeans can play. Will they play it? That is still the big question.
It is indeed. Maria Tadeo, Euronews' EU News Editor, thank you so much for that live update from Strasbourg, and of course to your guest, Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis, for getting up so early to be on Europe Today. Now, ending the war in Ukraine is, of course, the most acute geopolitical issue on the minds of Europeans today. But it does not mean that other important crises are being forgotten, like the chronic antibiotic shortage that numerous EU countries have been facing due to production costs, rising energy bills and, of course, increased demand. Euronews reporters Marta Ariola and Aida Sances got their hands on some exclusive information that might provide you with some temporary relief.
Sick of not finding your essential meds in the pharmacy? We have good news for you this winter. The antibiotics shortage in Europe is now a thing of the past after several years of medicine shortages. The European Medicine Agency told Euronews that antibiotics, like the commonly used amoxicillin, are now off their monitoring list. But it's not all positive. 36 other drugs are scarce. The EMA are monitoring them closely. Medicine shortages in the EU is a chronic issue. But if there was a turning point for it, that was the COVID-19 pandemic. The medical emergency exposed the EU's vulnerabilities and the risk posed by export disruptions, and made clear what the bloc needed: a more resilient supply chain and solving the high dependence on India and China. This is the focus of the new Critical Medicines Act. How will they do it? Prioritize EU-based suppliers and ensure the availability of critical medicines.
And if you're curious about those talks among EU capitals and the Parliament on this Critical Medicines Act, visit euronews.com for a longer read. But now it's time to talk about Nicolas Sarkozy. The former French president was put behind bars in October, but an appeals court has already approved his conditional release, and he's making sure to make a dramatic exit.
In prison, there is nothing to see and nothing to do. That's the teaser from France's newest literary star. This October, Nicolas Sarkozy became the first former French president to serve jail time. He was convicted of criminal conspiracy over a scheme to fund his 2007 presidential race. But as we've recently switched our clocks to wintertime, Sarkozy switched a 5-year sentence into just 20 days behind bars. So, what was our writer-in-residence up to inside? Well, we can't be sure, but we can guess his daily routine. Morning, reading time. Sarkozy brought 2 symbolic books. The Count of the Monte Cristo, a tale of unjust imprisonment and revenge, and a biography of Jesus. Subtle? Hardly. Midday, a bit of time to stretch your legs in an 11-square-meter cell. No luxury here, just a hot plate for cooking, a shower, and a TV which he had to rent for 14 euros a month. A good deal to watch Euronews, isn't it? Afternoon. In between writing his 200-page memoir, he had to face paparazzi inside. Inmates used smuggle phones to film him through the bars and leaked the footage online. Is the book Pulitzer material? Readers will have to decide. A Prisoner's Diary will be out on December 10th. We haven't read it yet, but we can give the marketing campaign a solid 5 out of 5.
Jakob Yanis reporting there on a French president who denies any wrongdoing and will face a fresh trial, though, next spring. Well, that brings this edition of Europe Today to an end. Watch The Ring tonight, though, on Euronews. We'll be live from Strasbourg, and I'll be back tomorrow morning here bright and early, so tune in for that. Take care.